Costco spends $70 million every year giving away free food. That's not charity. That's not marketing gone wrong. That's one of the most profitable investments in retail history. Because every time you accept that tiny paper cup of frozen mango chunks or that toothpick-speared piece of pizza bagel, something shifts in your brain. A psychological debt is created. And you're about to pay it back. Let's start with a scenario you'll recognize. Picture yourself walking through Costco on a Saturday afternoon. You're hungry. You didn't plan to buy much today. Just paper towels and maybe some chicken. Then you turn the corner, and there's a woman in an apron holding out a tray, spinach artichoke dip on a cracker. You make eye contact. She smiles. You take one. It's pretty good, actually. Here's what happens next, and you probably won't even notice it. You don't just walk away. You linger. You read the package. You think, well, it is pretty good. And it's on sale. And she was so nice. 2 minutes later, a frozen tub of spinach artichoke dip is in your cart. A purchase you had zero intention of making when you walked in. This isn't weak willpower. This is reciprocity bias. Reciprocity bias is the deeply wired human compulsion to return favors. When someone gives you something, even something tiny, even something you didn't ask for, your brain creates what psychologists call a psychological debt. You feel obligated, uncomfortable, like the scales are unbalanced. And the only way to restore equilibrium is to give something back. This isn't a modern phenomenon. Anthropologists believe reciprocity is one of the fundamental survival mechanisms that allowed early humans to cooperate and build societies. If I share meat with you today, you'll share with me tomorrow. The tribe that reciprocated survived. The tribe that didn't, they died out. Which means this bias isn't something you can just logic your way out of. It's baked into your operating system. And modern retailers know exactly how to exploit it. The free sample isn't free. It's a transaction. They give you 15 cents worth of cocktail weenie. You give them back $12 worth of a product you didn't need. And Costco has turned this into an industrial-scale money printing machine. Costco operates around 600 warehouses across North America. On a typical Saturday, each location might run 12 to 15 sampling stations simultaneously. They're operated by a company called Club Demonstration Services, also known as CDS. Costco pays CDS, which then pays the people in aprons called demonstrators, usually between $15 and $18 an hour. Do the math. 15 stations per store, 8-hour shifts. $18 an hour. That's over $2,000 per store per day just in labor. Add product costs, equipment, and logistics. Across 600 stores operating samples nearly every day of the year, you're looking at approximately $70 million annually. That sounds insane. Until you see what they get back. A study conducted by in-store marketing researchers found that sampling increases sales of the sampled product by up to 2,000% on sampling days. Let that sink in. A product that might sell 10 units on a normal Tuesday will sell 200 units when there's a sample station. But here's the deeper magic. It's not just about selling that one product. When customers accept a sample, they don't just buy the item they tasted. They stay in the store longer. They explore more aisles. Their overall basket size increases by an average of 15 to 20%, according to retail analytics data. Costco's average transaction is around $100. A 15% increase means an extra $15 per affected customer. If even a fraction of Costco's Saturday traffic, let's conservatively say 5 million customers weekly, accepts samples and experiences this basket inflation, that's an additional $75 million in weekly revenue, over $3 billion annually. From a $70 million investment, that's a return of more than 40 to 1. But the brilliance doesn't stop at the numbers. It's in the psychology of how they deliver it. The sample isn't handed to you by a machine. It's offered by a human being, a person who makes eye contact, who smiles, who sometimes makes small talk about how great the product is. That human interaction amplifies the reciprocity effect exponentially. Because now you're not just accepting something from a corporation, you're accepting something from Karen, who's been standing here for 4 hours and genuinely seems excited about these turkey meatballs. You don't want to disappoint Karen. The godfather of reciprocity research is psychologist Robert Cialdini. In his landmark book Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, Cialdini documents exactly how powerful this bias is. He describes a study conducted by Professor Dennis Regan in 1971 at Stanford University. Here's what Regan did. Participants were brought in for what they thought was an art evaluation study. They were paired with another person, actually a Confederate, working with the researchers. In one condition, during a break, the Confederate left the room and came back with 2 bottles of Coca-Cola. He gave one to the participant and said, "I asked the experimenter if I could get myself a Coke, and he said it was okay, so I bought one for you too." Later, after the supposed art evaluation, the Confederates asked the participant if they'd be willing to buy raffle tickets he was selling. Each ticket cost 25 cents. Participants who had received the Coke bought twice as many tickets as those who hadn't, even though they never asked for the Coke, even though it was worth maybe 10 cents. The small, unsolicited favor created a debt that people felt compelled to repay, and they repaid it at a much higher value than they received. Cialdini found this pattern everywhere. The Hare Krishna Society used to fund their entire organization by giving people flowers in airports, then immediately asking for donations. People who accepted the flower, even if they didn't want it, gave money at dramatically higher rates. They'd often throw the flower away 30 seconds later. But the damage was done. The debt was created. What makes reciprocity so powerful is that it works even when we know we're being manipulated. A follow-up study by researchers Jerry Berger and colleagues found that reciprocity triggers compliance even when the initial favor is unwanted, even when it comes from someone we don't particularly like, and even when the return favor is objectively much more valuable than what we received. Your rational brain knows that a free quarter ounce of hummus shouldn't make you buy a 2-pound tub. But your reciprocity-wired brain doesn't care about the math. It cares about the imbalance. And there's a biological reason for this. Neuroimaging studies have shown that when we receive an unexpected gift, it activates the brain's reward centers, the same regions involved in processing pleasure and social bonding. But when we fail to reciprocate, it activates the anterior insular cortex, a region associated with disgust and discomfort. Not reciprocating literally feels bad, like a low-grade nausea in your decision-making circuits. And the easiest way to make that feeling go away? Buy the damn spinach dip. Once you understand reciprocity, you start seeing it everywhere. And not always in ways that benefit you. Free trials that require your credit card. Premium apps that give you just enough to feel grateful before hitting you with paywalls. The restaurant mint placed on your check studies show that servers who give diners a single mint with the bill see tips increase by 3%. If they give 2 mints, tips jump 14%. If they give 1 mint, start to walk away, then turn back and say, "You know what, for you folks, here's an extra mint." Tips increase by 23%. That's not generosity. That's engineered reciprocity. But here's where it gets darker. Some companies use reciprocity not just to sell you something, but to extract data, compliance, or silence. Pharmaceutical companies used to give doctors free lunches, free pens, free notepads, all branded with drug names. The doctors insisted it didn't influence their prescribing habits. The data said otherwise. Studies published in JAMA Internal Medicine found that doctors who received even a single meal from a pharmaceutical company were more likely to prescribe that company's drugs. Even a $17 meal shifted prescribing patterns. The American Medical Association eventually had to create strict guidelines limiting these interactions because the reciprocity effect was so strong that it was distorting medical judgment. And then there are the companies that have figured out how to beat reciprocity bias by simply refusing to trigger it. Aldi, the discount grocer, doesn't do free samples. Neither does Trader Joe's for the most part. Their strategy is the opposite. Strip out every psychological trick, keep prices brutally low, and compete on pure value. It works for them because their customers are explicitly shopping to avoid overspending. The lack of manipulation is the appeal, but notice what this means. The absence of free samples is itself a selling point. Because savvy shoppers know that those samples aren't free. They're expensive. You're just paying for them in a way that doesn't feel like payment until you check your receipt in the parking lot and wonder how you spent $200 when you came in for toilet paper. So how do you defend against this? Can you even defend against a bias this deeply wired? The answer is yes, but not by trying to suppress the feeling. That doesn't work. Instead, you have to reframe the transaction. Morgan Housel writes in The Psychology of Money that the key to good financial decisions isn't eliminating emotion, it's understanding what game you're playing. When you accept a free sample, you need to consciously recognize that you're entering a psychological transaction, not receiving a gift. Here's a simple mental script. Before you take the sample, ask yourself, If this product didn't exist, would I feel like something was missing from my life? If the answer is no, then you don't need it. The sample is delicious? Great. Enjoy it. Thank the demonstrator. And walk away. You haven't been rude. You haven't broken any social contract because you're choosing to reject the premise that accepting the sample creates debt. Costco is a corporation with $14 billion in annual profit. They don't need your $12 to stay afloat. The demonstrator? They're being paid hourly whether you buy anything or not. The debt is imaginary. Another strategy. Only accept samples of products you were already planning to buy. Use the samples as a quality check, not a discovery mechanism. That transforms the dynamic. Now you're the one extracting value from Costco, not the other way around. You're auditioning their product before committing your money. And if you're a business owner, here's the flip side. Reciprocity is a tool, and tools aren't inherently good or evil. They're just powerful. If you're going to use reciprocity in your business, use it ethically. Give value first, real value, not manipulative crumbs, and let reciprocity work naturally. The companies that do this well create genuine relationships. The companies that abuse it create resentment. Think about brands you're loyal to. Chances are, at some point, they gave you something valuable without asking for anything in return. Maybe it was educational content, or exceptional service, or a generous return policy. That's reciprocity too, but it's reciprocity in service of building something real, not just extracting an impulse purchase. So the next time you're walking through Costco and you see that sample station, remember, nothing is free. Every exchange has terms, and the most expensive purchases are the ones you didn't plan to make. That $70 million Costco spends, they're getting it back from you. $15 at a time, one paper cup at a time. Unless you see the game for what it is. If this video changed how you'll walk through Costco next time, subscribe for more psychology that'll save you money. And if you want to see how another retail giant manipulates your brain, watch our video on why IKEA's maze layout makes you spend 60% more.